deniability. So they can say, look, none of our people are involved in this, so it can't be us. And in fact, what they're doing is paying people to carry out the operation for them. I think in the film I touched on most of the 9/11 key issues, like very hard evidence, as it were. So what I really want to do now is bring all this to bear on something much closer to home, that is 7/7. The day that 7/7 happened, rather unusually, I decided to take a taxi into London and do some interviews on the basis that there had been 4 terrorist bombs in London that day. They weren't likely to be any more. It was probably the safest place in the country at the time. But on the radio, I heard someone called Peter Power, a security company called Visor Consultants. And he said, noted real shock to himself, that he was running an exercise in which they envisaged very similar attacks happening at, he says, for exactly the same stations. Now, my run at the time ran cold because, I don't know if you know this, but on the day of 9/11 there were several exercises running. One of which, of course, involved flying planes into buildings, which of course makes it even more absurd that Condoleezza Rice and George Bush can say in public, no one ever envisaged that they were going to fly planes into buildings. There was an exercise taking place that very day when it actually happened in real life. So there always seems to be an idea when you have false flags that they need some kind of cover story to be able to carry out the operation. And that cover may well be provided by official exercises. And indeed, when things were running close, as we believe, to an invasion of Iran, many people are talking about August last year for the invasion of Iran. They point out that wars tend to start August, September time when people are on holiday and everyone's noticing. And on the 15th of August last year, the American military were running an exercise in which some terrorists were going to smuggle a nuclear suitcase bomb into a big American city. Now, we all looked at this beforehand and thought, oh my God, no, not after 7/7, 9/11, they're going to let off a nuclear bomb and blame it on the Iranians. So we shared this information as widely as possible. To send it out to your friends. If it does happen, at least we all know that, we've warned each other. But the American military cancelled that exercise. So we got very close. And it may be that the work of the 9/11 Truth Movement actually called their bluff on that one. We informed so many people about the possibility that if it had happened, people would have said straight away, inside job, false flag, rather than playing the game, becoming inflamed and supporting more war. Now, of course, the Peter Power issue is not clear. I mean, some people have said this is Peter Power just baiting the kind of conspiracy theory community. I don't think he was involved. I clearly think that obviously his company was involved in this exercise, but that was used as cover by other people possibly. And I should just stress, by the way, that I don't actually think that anybody's in a position to say that the 7/7 was an inside job. The evidence really isn't there. What we do have, though, is the absence of evidence where we'd expect it, basically. And people go on about CCTV and how it's for our own good to protect us from, God knows what. It's always very funny how the CCTV is never working when we actually need it. Remember Jimenez? The first thing was, the CCTV wasn't working. So the London Underground said, yes it was, but he gave it to the police. The police, of course, lost it. Isn't this enormously suspicious that the cameras that will tell us what exactly happened with Jimenez are in fact not working? Which then knocks us on to the idea of what happened around, for example, the Oklahoma bombing in 1995. There were CCTV cameras quite clearly recording where Timothy McVeigh pulled up in his van. Witnesses reported somebody else getting out with him. The CCTV from those cameras has never been disclosed. It was never used in court. And to this day, the FBI claims that, like Lee Harvey Oswald, Timothy McVeigh was in fact a kind of lone bomber, basically. And the point about this one was as well, I don't think everybody remembers it, but it's a very good example of what they're trying to do. When Oklahoma was first blown up, every media outlet in the world said, this is Islamic terrorists. Every one of them. No one said anything else. They've sustained this for about 2 or 3 days, until they realised that Timothy McVeigh had been arrested, but only by accident. Apparently what happened is when he was driving away in his car, his number plate fell off the back. So he got stopped by a highway policeman and said, where's your number plate? Realised that McVeigh was packing. peace, so he arrested him at gunpoint. It was only when McVeigh was then forensicated that they realised he'd actually been involved in the Oklahoma bombing. But we can see from this example quite easily how if McVeigh had been arrested in those circumstances, we would to this day believe that it was Islamic terrorists. Now this is all relevant to 7/7 because we have so far have released, I think, 3 CCTV pictures. They claim there are more of them, but they say there are 3. Primarily, of course, we have the one taken at 7:21 at Luton. Now, I went up to Luton recently, and we tried to stand where that camera is. And that picture, I have to say, is a fake. It is not a real CCTV picture. It is impossible, we figured, from looking at it. And this is not allowing for other things that people have looked at. When you look at that picture, you can see one of the bars behind the guy going in front of his arms. It's like somebody's photoshopped it really badly. But that's not the whole of 7/7. I mean, the only conclusion I can really come to about 7/7 was that this was an inside job, but it was the worst inside job ever, the most cockeyed one, the most obvious one to expose. Because at 7:21, of course, once they've gone through that gateway, they should have been photographed again on a CCTV camera on the side. So where's the CCTV there? Similarly, when you get to London, there's supposed to be lots of images of them, and initially said King's Cross, taken in 1926, but they also, they now said that was at Thameslink. We went to Thameslink, have a look at Thameslink in the concourse. There are at least 6 cameras, which should have recorded them walking across that concourse. None of those images have been released. But what is really interesting about the 7:21 picture, and this was, I thought, particularly comical in the official report. In the official report, it's got the